Amen, amen. I like that. I am the place where God lives and moves and breathes and has His Spirit. Amen. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is wonderful to see you this morning. I am the Rev Saba Mchunguzi, and it is my pleasure to follow David Craig. Let's give David another hand. We are beginning a new series this morning. And the series is entitled, Living a Limitless Life. Living a Limitless Life. And it's based on the Unity booklet, which all of you should have. And the booklet is entitled, Aging with Grace. And if you don't have one, raise your hands and our ushers will bring one to you. Aging with Grace. And this booklet has a lot of good stories in it and uplifting stories. And it talks about the process of aging. And some people would say, people with a limited consciousness, that some people would say that this series is about getting old. But it's not. Thank you. But it's not. It's about aging, as the booklet says, with grace. And grace is a blessing from God. Grace is that which we receive. It's that which we don't do anything for. It's our unmerited favor that we have from God. Grace is something that everyone has. Everyone who has ever lived is a recipient of God's grace. Wherever they live, whatever their mindset is, everyone has and is receiving the grace of God. So we are talking about taking God's grace, and we are talking about taking our spiritual understanding, and we are talking about taking the teachings of Jesus all the way to the end of life in this body. Now, a few Sundays ago on Mother's Day, we heard a lesson that was given to us by Reverend Alicia Leslie, and she told us about Myrtle Fillmore, the mother of unity, and her miraculous healing that she was able to manifest using these spiritual teachings. One of the things that it's important to remember is that Myrtle Fillmore lived to be 86 years young. And what do people ask you? They ask you, how old are you? Right? The emphasis on old. Does anybody ask you how young are you? Well, maybe the next time somebody asks you, if you do tell them the age, you can say, well, I'm such and such years young. Because the concept of age and old is of someone who is slowed down and can't do things and lost their memory and can't hear, can't see, and can't walk. The concept of aging is such that people are very fearful of it. The truth of the matter is, the real truth is that age, and you've all heard this before, age is nothing but a number. Did you get that? Age is just a number. And I remember, and it's in our reading in our bulletin today, but I remember Reverend Johnny Coleman telling us, because people used to ask her all the time, Reverend Coleman, how old are you? Or they ask somebody around her, do you know how old Reverend Johnny is? And her response is, ain't none of your business. She never told us, ministers, and I was in a group of ministers that met with her, periodically. She never told us how old she was. Why? Because she knew that if she said, I'm 60-something years old, or I'm 70-something years old, or I'm 80-something, then we, as the human part of us, of everybody, would say, oh wow, she's that old. That means that soon she's going to start losing this, and she's not going to be able to do that. And while she's up to here, that boy, she's doing good for her age. Look at her. Okay. And she didn't want that concept, that idea, to be in people's minds about her. Boy, I didn't know she was that old. Boy, she looks really good. Yeah, she takes good care of herself. The truth is that age is really just a number. And the issue is not how many years we've lived. The issue is really the quality of the life that we have lived. Because we all know people who in a relatively short span of time in terms of their life have done and produced and experienced a whole host of things, have lived a good life and a productive life in a relatively short span of years. And we also know people who have lived a number of years and may not have done as much as they perhaps could have, or may not have done as much as others have. So it's not the years itself, it's not the number of years. So we're going to be looking at this concept of age and aging and youthism, if you will. And there's a statement that you may have heard before, but it's applicable today. And we are blessed to have two founders, or the two founders of Unity, who lived productively for a long, what we call a long life. As I said, Myrtle was 86 and Charles Fillmore was 94 when he passed away. And let me just say this also. They lived in some rough times. Life wasn't easy back in the 1800s, the early 1900s and so on. Just the physical day-to-day life, it wasn't easy. But they, using these same principles that we are learning and trying to apply today, they used these same principles and they were able to overcome the day-to-day hardships of life. Charles Fillmore said something very profound, and it's well known, it's famous, if you will, within the Unity movement. And that is, he said, at the age of 94, he said, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Did you get that? At 94, he said, I sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm. That was in his consciousness. That was his mindset. That was his being. That's the way he was at 94. And he said, and I spring forth with a mighty faith. Faith in God. Faith in the truth of his being. He springs forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by him. My friends, we are also talking about the infinite possibilities that all of us have. The infinite and unlimited possibilities that all of us have. So we talked before about transforming ourselves, transforming our consciousness. So now we are taking it a step further, and we're saying it's important for us to transform our thinking about age. Okay? Because if we don't, then we can do a lot of other good things, but still shortchange ourselves. So no matter what age you are, this is not just for people who are what they call up there in age. No, this is for everybody. This understanding about youthfulness and what is possible at every and any stage of life is important for everyone to learn and to internalize and to understand. We spoke last Sunday about Jack LaLanne. I don't know if any of you looked him up during the week, Googled him, but we talked about all of the miraculous things that he did, feats of strength, of swimming, miles and miles, carrying with boats and rowboats harnessed to his back, and all sorts of underwater for long periods of time, swimming. Jack LaLanne, who was a contemporary, who passed away in January of 2011. And let's say he wasn't a historical figure. Jack LaLanne passed away at the age of 96. So, he lived a life of grace. He lived a life of peace. He lived a life of accomplishment. He was able to take whatever it is, and I'm not sure of his spiritual background or what have you, maybe he wasn't spiritually attuned, but he was, in order for him to have been able to do all of the things that he accomplished. He passed away at 96. And he had a daily routine. Jack LaLanne had a daily routine for, they say, a good 60 years. And this is important because part of living a life of grace, part of living and still being eternally young and youthful, part of being able to do that is to establish certain routines, certain attitudes of mind, is to do certain things regularly. They say that Jack LaLanne used to lift weights and do strength training for 90 minutes a day. They said he used to swim or run for 30 minutes a day, in addition to his lifting weights and strength training. He had a regular routine. He used to eat 10 raw vegetables a day. He used to eat 2 meals a day. He used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every single day. Now, we're not necessarily saying that you and I should do the same things that he did. But the question is, what is our daily routine? See, when we talk about aging gracefully, part of it is the spiritual side, the spiritual aspect, which is understanding that there is no time in God mind. There is no time, there is no age in spirit. There is only now. The other part of it is, what can we do? What should we do? What do we need to do in and for the physical body to help the process of us aging with grace? So, it's important that we need to ask ourselves, well, what is it that we do? What do I do? What do I do on a daily basis? What is my prayer life like? What is my devotional life like? See, again, we have to take some responsibility for our physical body. Last week we spoke about reaching for the stars and being all that we could be, and refusing to accept limits in our lives, and refusing to allow people to limit us, and to see the good in every situation, to see God in every situation. Well, do we do that on a regular basis? That is the question. Do we talk, do we say positive things about ourselves to ourselves on a regular basis? Do we do our affirmations daily? Are you with me now? Because again, there are things that we can do, and if we do those things, then we are helping the process, we're helping ourselves. Just like we have goals and dreams and aspirations. Well, we know that we need to, if we want to manifest those goals and dreams, well, it is important for us to affirm the good that we desire, to be clear and precise about what it is that we desire, as opposed to being wishy-washy. Well, I'm not sure, I think this today and I think such and such tomorrow. So we're talking about the same types of things in terms of our daily devotion. And there's a paradox in our mind. And that paradox is that we believe what we tell ourselves. Did you get that? We believe what we tell ourselves. So if we are constantly telling ourselves about these aches and pains, and I can't do this and I can't do that, and all of those things, then your mind believes it and it expresses it. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So there was a teacher, new teacher starting out in a new school, gave her a class of students, and they gave her a list of names of the students in her class, and there was a number next to each name: 106, 124, 139, 119, a number next to each name. And she wondered what these numbers were. She went on and taught her class, and eventually she kind of picked up what she thought the numbers meant. So she taught the class, and she went throughout the whole school year. End of the year, principal calls her into the office and says, you know, Miss Anderson, you've done a great work with these students. She said, oh, what do you mean? He said, well, these students were at the bottom of the class. This was one of the worst classes, you know, in this grade, and you brought their scores up to almost the highest. And she said, but I thought these were smart students. He said, why did you think that? She said, well, I saw their IQs right next to their name. And he said, that wasn't their IQ, that was their locker number. But she thought and believed that was the IQ, which means that they were smart, which means that they could do well. So she put that into her consciousness, and she expected that from her students. So her students responded to what she expected of them, to her attitude towards them. Her students raised their ability. They already had the ability, but their students responded to what she projected. The point is that our body, our physical body, our life, world, and affairs will also respond to that which we say and that which we project. In our reading for today, in our bulletin, Living a Limitless Life, and I thought about it afterwards. I said, well, maybe I should have entitled this Living an Endless Life. Because we're talking about life without end. And this past Wednesday during our prayer group, we were talking about today's topic a little bit, and we were talking about people who are in their 70s, and some in our congregation who are in their 70s and they're still active and so on. And one of the people in the group said, well, nowadays 70s isn't what it used to be. 70s is young. 70 is a new 50 or whatever. And that's true. That is true. It will be true for each of us, 70s and even 80s nowadays. 80 isn't what it used to be. We got some 80s in here, and you guys see somebody stretching their arms over there, but you know, some of you are able to express beyond what the number says. It is possible. With God, all things are possible. Now, it doesn't mean there aren't going to be aches and pains. It doesn't mean that some things aren't going to slow down a little bit. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be physical changes and bodily changes and even mental, emotional changes. No, it doesn't mean that there won't be some changes like that. However, what it does mean is that we can do amazing things, regardless of what the calendar says. Regardless of what the calendar says. And I just want to share this with you. So in the Gospel of John, John gives us what's known as the I am teachings, where Jesus says, I am the door, I am the good shepherd. There's a series of teachings where Jesus says, I am. And he's teaching us. The I am teachings don't just refer to Jesus when he says, I am this and I am that. They refer to the teachings themselves that Jesus taught. And they also refer to God, because we know that God is, and another name for God is, I am. So in the Gospel of John, the 10th chapter, beginning at the 6th verse, and it says, I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me were thieves and robbers, but the true sheep did not listen to them. Yes, I am the gate. Those who come in through me will be saved. They will come and go freely and will find good pasture. So Jesus is teaching us and telling us about the safety and peace and security of those who follow his teachings. And then he says in verse 10, the thief's purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. My purpose is to give them, meaning us, a rich and satisfying life. Amen. A rich and satisfying life. This is from the New Living Translation. In other translations, it says, I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. Now, if we think about this and reflect upon this and work with this idea and realize that Jesus is telling us that I am the good shepherd, I am the door, I am, and that you can have a good and abundant and fulfilling life, then we need to take this idea from Jesus throughout the rest of our lives, and every single day wake up and realize the truth of our being, regardless of what the calendar says, regardless of what people may say or do. If we internalize these ideas, the idea of living an endless life, the idea of living a life in the body, a life of peace and joy and happiness and activity, just as Charles and Myrtle Fillmore did, and just as Jacqueline Lane did, and just as some of us in here are doing. The idea is that each of us needs to take that idea of life and ability, abundant life, and God's grace and will for us to live the abundant life as we live that type of life each day. And do more and more and more, understand that it is possible for us to do more and more and more each and every single day. In our reading, Eric Butterworth tells us, he says, act as if today is the most important day of your life. And we know the saying, today is the first day of the rest of my life. So we are talking about your attitude. We are talking about your mindset. We're not talking about the calendar. We're talking about your attitude and your mindset and your understanding and acceptance of these teachings in spite of what the calendar says. Because if you do that in spite of what the calendar says, then you will defy the odds and you will get all sorts of accolades because people will say, wow, you don't look that old. You don't act that old. I would have never imagined that you were that age. Why? Because your mindset and your carriage and your feeling and your understanding of the truth of your being as a child of God, as an infinite child of God with unlimited potential and possibilities. He says, act as if today is the most important day of your life. This day you are young or old, according to your thought, he says. According to your thinking. That's what determines whether you're young or old. Not anything external. Not the aches and pains, because there's so many people who manage and get through the day after day, be up besides and not even thinking about the aches and pains. And we all know it. There are days where we may not feel good, may not feel whatever, but we know there's some things we have to do. And do we do them? Yes. Because we just know they have to get done. Many times something for our children, sometimes something on the job or whatever, but we do it in spite of, well, guess what? Every single day that you wake up, know that you have the infinite life of God, the unending life of God, the abundant life of God within you. And that life enables you to do all of the things, as Charles Fillmore said, all of the things that you are supposed to do that day. Eric Butterworth ends this passage by saying that we are to live in the consciousness of limitless life. Limitless, endless, without boundaries, without restriction. And as we open up our awareness to this, as we accept it in spite of, then we will see ourselves truly experiencing more of the goodness of life, more of the peace of life, more of the grace of God. Our opening statement in our bulletin is, and let's take a look at it. I greet every year and each moment as a cherished occasion to express life at its fullest and best. Let's affirm this together with feeling. I greet every year and each moment as a cherished occasion to express life at its fullest and best. My friends, this is the truth about you, the whole truth, and it cannot be otherwise. God bless you.